In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about one of the most hyped up, promoted real estate strategies that's going online right now, which is called Section 8 housing. My name is Troy Kearns. I own over 350 rentals, and out of those 350 rentals, about 120 of them are on the Section 8 program and have been on the Section 8 program for the past 13 years. As a landlord for the past 22 years, I know a few things about Section 8. The reason I wanted to do this video is because I do believe there's a lot of misinformation being spread out there by some gurus, and so I'm going to take this time to go through a bunch of these videos and respond to them to give you the actual truth of these videos. I don't want to see you lose money, and so I just want to respond in kind to some of the claims that these guys are making. So the first one popped up on my feed and was shared with me to one of my students, and this guy's name is Section 8 Karim. He went from working at Section 8 at 17 to owning 100 plus Section 8 rental properties, pushing 150K a month in guaranteed rents. DM me the word Section 8 to start. So first of all, I want to explain one thing right now. For him to be able, just on that claim alone, for him to be able to produce $150,000 a month in rental income, he would have to have, out of those 100 properties, all of them occupied, 100% paying tenants, and be getting an average rent of $1,500 a month. Based off of that, I think that's a very bold claim. So I'm gonna go through some of these videos.
I am a Section 8 investor.
And how much do you make per year doing this?
I make about $150K a month.
And how long you been doing this for?
Well, I used to work for Section 8 about 5 years ago, and then I bought my first property literally 6 months after that.
And how many properties do you currently own right now?
I am at 110.
And what is Section 8? What is it exactly?
It's a program for low-income tenants who can't afford to pay their rent. The government will come in and pay anywhere from 70 to 100% of the rent.
And why did you choose to invest in Section 8 specifically? What are some of the benefits as an investor?
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about what happened during COVID, a shit ton of landlords were not collecting anything every single month. I was getting a guaranteed check. Number two, your average rents are about 10 to 30% above market value. And then your average Section 8 tenant stays in a house for 7.5 years.
I'm gonna pause this right now. So first of all, those are made up statistics. The average tenant does not stay on Section 8 in your house for 7.5 years. That's a made up statistic. I don't even know where the guy got this. It's not accurate information. They don't pay 10 to 30% above market value. They actually will pay market value. And this is the biggest problem I have. These guys are coming online and they're saying, hey, go to this state, Mississippi, which I own 120 rental properties in Mississippi. And they're saying, pick Jackson, Mississippi, pick the low crime rate. I'm gonna go through all this. And the reality is that although this is a guaranteed rental program, there's a lot of things that these guys are not telling you. And I wanna go through them one at a time. Let's go through another video.
I'm 21 years old.
All right, so let me respond to this.
Rentals, and let me tell you guys why you should get into Section 8 today. Number one is the low barrier to entry. I literally close on each property with about $8,000 to $12,000 down. Number two is that the government actually pays about 10 to 20%.
You just said 10 to 30%. Now he's saying 10 to 20.
Number three is that it's guaranteed. So whether or not COVID comes around again,
this is true.
Recession, you're still gonna get your rents every single month. And number four, you could do this virtually. About half my properties are located in a state that I've never even been to.
This is true, but he makes it sound super easy. So let me just tell you this. A lot of property managers won't even deal with Section 8. They won't even deal with Section 8 because of the number of requirements that you have to do to pass a Section 8 inspection. They call it a loss leader because it costs them so much time, energy, and money to get a tenant in there through Section 8 versus a traditional tenant that a lot of property managers won't even deal with you, which means if you're gonna be doing it virtually out of state, you're gonna have to manage it yourself, which is almost impossible. You know, this guy throws out stuff like, hey, you just go to Thumbtack, hey, go here, find your property manager. Websites don't solve all your problems, and apps and AI doesn't solve all your problems. You have to be an experienced investor, otherwise you'll lose your ass. And let's talk about $8,000 to $10,000 being the amount of money that you can get into a deal. Okay, number one, most banks will not even loan you money for a loan less than $50,000. The reason that they will not do that, especially for investment purposes, is because of the comp and basis plan of the mortgage loan officer. They have a certain comp plan, and that comp plan exceeds the $50,000. Go right now and try to go get a loan on an investment property for $50,000 down. And what he's telling you is that you need 15 to 20% down. So if you're using that math, that is about $40,000 or $50,000. You can't even get a loan on this amount. You're not going to be able to owner finance these deals, and they're not going to be turnkey. This is some other things that he talks about. So let's go through these other ones.
I own 77 Section 8 rentals. I'm going to show you how to buy your first with as little as $11,000 down. Step 1 is go on realtor.com, put under 100K, 3 bedrooms plus, and use these filters right here. I buy properties all the way from $60,000 to $80,000. Make sure that it's not larger than 1,500 square feet and not older than 1950.
That doesn't even make sense. It was Section 8, like this is like the wrong math. The number one thing you want with Section 8 is you want massive amounts of bedrooms. Because the more bedrooms that they have, the more money that you're gonna make. So if you have a 5.2 or a 6.2, you're making way more money than the square footage. The square footage does not even matter, it's bedroom count. Number 2, 1950, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I don't know where he came up with that, but if you really wanted to go through the Section 8 bureaucracy, I would buy houses like that. If you want to stay out of the Section 8 bureaucracy, stay out of their trouble, then you need to buy a house after 1979, because otherwise you have to do a big lead-based paint disclosure for all of your Section 8 properties built before 1978. Because before 1978, the federal government did not mandate that you had to disclose that there may or may not be lead-based paint, which can cause kids that will eat it, and it's a big liability for Section 8 tenants. So I don't even know where he came up with why you don't want properties that are over 1,500 square feet. Probably the perfect scenario would be like a 1,000 to 2,000 square foot house between 3 to 5 bedrooms and 1 to 2 bathrooms. That would be like a perfect Section 8 house. A 4.2, a 5.2, something like that. Somebody with a lot of kids, because they're gonna get more money, more vouchers. That's the type of tenant you're gonna get on Section 8.
Also, if you're buying properties out of state, make sure that they're turnkey. As you can see, this is completely ready to go on the inside. All the walls are repainted and the kitchen looks pretty solid as well. Step 2, go on spotcrime.com and input the address to make sure there's no major crime in the area. And then if you go to huduser.gov, the government guarantees $13.76 every single month.
So that's one of the biggest problems I have with this, okay? They're using that number. That number is absolutely ridiculous. The government, although they are incredibly inefficient and incredibly stupid, what they will do is they will blanket the whole area and say, this is what we will pay up to. What happens in those markets, like we've got multiple properties in those markets where they say $1,400. If the average going rent is $1,000, they can see all that information. And if you can't provide them comps to show that there's other properties in that area to support that rent amount, they're not just gonna pay it. He's feeding you a line of bullshit. You're not finding turnkey houses for 60 grand or 80 grand.
Now 15% down, which is 11 grand, your monthly payment is $580 a month. So now on this particular property, you cash flow all over from $600 to $800 a month. Now what you're gonna wanna do is contact the housing authority and ask them how many outstanding vouchers they have, just to make sure there's actual Section 8 tenants in the area.
The first original guy who did this, his name is Tom Cruz. He's out of Miami, Florida right now, formerly North Carolina, and they're both of these guys are full of shit. They're all flexing. They're flexing. I'm pretty sure this guy took the exact same playbook that the other guy's been successful at. And if you look up the other guy's reviews, we'll put a few of them up online. He's got like massive, nasty reviews, okay? One of the properties he talks about buying is in Jackson, Mississippi, which is Hinds County, Mississippi, which is an area I know extremely well, and I've never bought a property in there for a good gosh darn reason. It's one of the highest crime areas in all of Mississippi. So if you're gonna go there, find a turnkey rental, which is not gonna exist for under $60,000 to $80,000 in Jackson County, Mississippi, in an area where there's no crime. It will not exist, okay? You can't find them. You could find properties for under $60,000, under $80,000, but they're not gonna be turnkey and they're not gonna be in a crime area. So he's telling you, go find a unicorn. The other thing is he's saying, and you get a loan for 15% down. Most financial institutions are gonna require at least 20% down for your investment property. Now, some of them will require you to do less, but most, if you're a new investor, they're not gonna go with the 15%. They're not gonna go with the 10%. They're gonna require 20% skin in the game, especially if you're out of state and you've never done it before. They're not just gonna be like, oh, you took Karim's Section 8 course, you're dialed. It's not happening that way.
You make money off poor people, you're not cool. So I showed that I made over $100,000 this month off Section 8 tenants who can't afford to pay their rent. And the government sends me a check every single month guaranteed by your tax dollars. And everybody hates the strategy because they think I'm exploiting the poor. I don't see what the big deal is with buying dirt cheap properties like these and overcharging the US government to rent them out to Section 8 tenants. Like the US government will literally pay me 110 to 140% above market value. But if you're an entrepreneur like me and you'd like to make money, let me show you how to get started with under $10,000 down. Step 1, you want to choose a city. These are my top 15 cities where you can find turnkey properties under $100,000. Then step 2, you want to go into investorlift.com.
Yeah,
This is where you can find dirt cheap
Florida on
off-market
there.
deals under $100,000, and make sure to use all of these filters right here. You want to find yourself a turnkey property like this under $100,000. Make sure that it's not larger than 1,500 square feet and not older than 1950 as well.
Now it's under $100,000. Here's the other thing you can tell with somebody who's lying a lot. They can't stick to the story because he can't keep track of all the shit he's saying because he's bullshitting you. This is somebody who's full of shit. In fact, I invite this person to come on a podcast with me and prove it. Because he's full of shit and never will.
Day in the life of a 22-year-old who makes $150,000 a month. Since today is the first of the month, the first thing that I do is check how much the federal government just deposited into my bank account for my Section 8 rentals. And then I get straight to work. The first thing that I do is ask ChatGPT to give me a list of landlord-friendly cities where I can find properties under $100,000.
Go to ChatGPT.
I pick a city and I head over to investorlift.com. This is where I can find off-market turnkey properties for dirt cheap. Then I pick out a turnkey property just like this one.
Nobody sells turnkeys on InvestorLift.
1,500 square feet and not older than 1950 as well. Once I found the property, I'll head over to HUDuser.gov to see how much the federal government will pay me for this property, and as we can see, I'm going to end up getting right around $1,500 a month. From there, I'll plug my numbers into my cash flow calculator, and after all of my expenses with $9,750 down, I'll cash flow $680.
All right, so here's what I want to have you guys pay attention to. So most of the scenarios that he's done right there is he's mentioned that he's going to cash flow $500 to $600, $500 to $700. Now I just want you guys to add up some math real quick. If you're cash flowing, let's call it $700 on your 100 rentals, how much are you making a month? That's $70,000. He's saying he's cash flowing $150,000 and he's making $70,000 a month. That's bullshit. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, let me just tell you exactly how I know this. Out of those properties that I mentioned in Mississippi, let me tell you how many of them have debt. 0. Okay, so I don't have a mortgage on them, and I can tell you those numbers are not accurate because I'm not seeing those types of numbers. I've been at this stuff for a lot longer than this young man, and I can tell a bullshit man when I see one. And this guy is full of shit. He might have worked at Section 8. He definitely doesn't own 111 properties, and if he owns 111 properties, he's not cash flowing $150,000 a month. He may be bringing in $150,000 a month, but I even doubt that. I don't even think this guy owns 20 rental properties, 10 rental properties. I think he's selling courses. I think he's perping on another guy who's a bullshit artist. And I think he's like, hey, nobody's called this guy out, so nobody's gonna call me out. I'm calling you both out. Where Section 8 comes from is the HUD program. HUD is the Housing and Urban Development, right? HUD was started by FHA after the Great Depression to soak up the existing housing inventory. And then they started Section 8 and all these other things. Karim, stop lying to people. You're not getting the amount of money that is on the voucher. It doesn't happen. I've done this in Birmingham. I've done this in Las Vegas. I've done this in Kansas City. I've done this in New York City. I've done this in Philadelphia. I've done this in Washington State. I've done this in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've done this all over the country, and I can tell you, his rules are not exclusive to him. They're exclusive to everybody on the Section 8 program. I don't care if you worked for Section 8, you've got insider knowledge. We don't see any closing statements. We don't see anything. I don't believe him. I think he's full of shit. I think he actually copied another guy who's full of shit. His name's Tom Cruz. We're gonna go through his videos next. If you're not full of shit, come on and talk to me. But right now, you're full of shit.
Section 8 properties typically do not appreciate. They're in shitty areas.
See, guys like this just don't know how to exploit the poor correctly, nor do they know how to take advantage of the federal government. Guys, we're not buying Section 8 properties for appreciation. You can't go to the Ferrari dealer, the Lambo dealer, the yacht dealer, and try to pay them an appreciation. They only take cash. So don't be like the average economically anemic American that goes out and buys an overpriced property, hoping and praying that it goes up in value. Instead, open up Section 8 Pro, come over here to minimum cash flow of $900 per month. That's what you want to search for. Find a property that you like, that is move-in ready, like this one, that cash flows $10,000 per year. Then open up Tenant Finder, search for a tenant that you like with a decent credit score, good rental history, and no eviction. After 5 years, your poor tenant is going to pay off that property for you, and you don't have to worry about welfare ass appreciation.
I'll disagree with both of these guys. Properties appreciate in every area. High tides raise all ships. But yes, cash flow on Section 8 is great. But let me be very clear. Every year, you're gonna have to go through an inspection list with Section 8. And even if your tenant damaged the properties, and a lot of these guys are gonna tell you, well, they got a lease for that, they got a lease for this, they got a lease for the other thing. It doesn't work. The biggest thing that you gotta do is you gotta get tenant insurance, okay? And these guys just are making it sound so easy, and they're using the same tools that people have been using for years. They're using girls, they're using exotic cars.
Android users are not allowed in any of my Section 8 rental properties. If you have terrible credit, under 600, you're out. If you're a convicted felon, you're out. If you have been previously evicted, you're out. Oh, and that's just the beginning. I take discrimination way further. I actually have my property managers go to your current residence, meaning the place you're living in now before you move into my house, and see how you're living. Do you have overgrown grass? Do you have junk cars? Do you have 20 people and 4 pit bulls living with you? If you do, you're out of here. And then you get these economically anemic TikTok users that love to come on here and say, oh, Section 8 tenants are bad, they're gonna trash your units. No, there's no such thing as a trash tenant. Only a trash landlord and investor that's too lazy to screen their own tenants before they allow them into their asset. How do you think I own 725 properties across 4 different states? If all my tenants were trash, I'd constantly be filling up new units and I would never be as rich as I am.
I'm gonna call bullshit on just the 725. In sheer scale, it's pretty impossible to scale as quickly as this guy without lying or without not telling us something. And when you're selling all the sexy things first, one of my friends, shout out Josh Galindo, told me like he didn't ever get recognized until he bought a Lamborghini. So yes, the sexy things sell, but the reality is as a real estate guru, that Section 8 is the best strategy. I can tell you it's one strategy. If you got one bullet in your gun, you got one bullet in your gun. This is one bullet in your gun. It's a good strategy, but I wouldn't pay these guys anything to learn how to do Section 8 because it's just something that you can do and they're making it sound super easy and it's really not super easy. This video actually demonstrated one of the best parts is you got to screen the tenants right. He actually was truthful in that. I'm willing to debate any of these Section 8 gurus. I've been in Section 8 longer than they have. I've had more tenants through my Section 8 houses than they have. I've been in the industry longer than they have, and I can tell you I've lived off passive income. So is he living off his passive income or is he living off of your investment income? We sell a coaching program too, and we talk about Section 8, but it's a strategy and one of the infinite number of strategies that we have in order for you to be successful in real estate. Do you believe that I'm being a hater or these guys are full of shit? I believe that you got to present everything the way it is. You don't sell the sizzle, you sell the steak. The sizzle is all the fancy things. You just start your morning with AI. You ask AI to do everything for you. AI makes your bed, finds your tenant, finds your property manager, places the property. All you have to do is wire $5,000 and you're making $10,000 a month rent. They love to say the word guaranteed by the US government so they can exploit all these tenants because they want to create polarizing divide and they want to show you with fake bank accounts, with real bank accounts, with real cars, with fake cars, with real yachts, with fake yachts, that they're making all of this money doing it through Section 8. Now the reality is I've been doing Section 8 since 2009. Okay, since 2009, and I can tell you every single thing they're talking about Section 8, besides it being guaranteed income from the federal government, is pretty much untrue. You're not getting the amount that they tell you that you're gonna get per county unless that county is equal to or less than the average rents in that area. So it's something that you're gonna either have to appeal if it's too low or you're gonna have to appeal if it's not high enough, okay? It's not guaranteed just because it says that amount. You can read through those terms on there. The other thing is, if you're looking to buy properties in Jackson, Mississippi, Hinds County, for $60,000 that are turnkey in an area with no crime, good luck. It doesn't exist. It's a unicorn. The other thing, if you believed that these people's lifestyle is funded with Section 8, then why would they be trying to sell you a program? I am completely transparent. My business is funded by real estate deals. We offer coaching to try to help people just like I did, that I needed help. I had a mentor. I had someone to help me out so that you can achieve the same thing that I did. And I don't usually like to throw shade. In fact, I've been waiting 2 years to throw shade on these guys because it makes me look like maybe I'm being a Karen, maybe I'm being a little bit of a baby, but I just don't want to see you go as an investor and be like, oh man, that sounds so easy. It's not. Section 8 investing is probably one of the toughest things to do because you're dealing with a very sophisticated tenant. They have to be able to get on a voucher. You're dealing with a very sophisticated board. A lot of these boards, a lot of these like Kansas City Housing Authority, a lot of these authorities are super strict. You're not going to pass it on your first inspection. It's going to be something that you need to do really well. The leases, they don't really give a crap about them because the voucher trumps all. So if you really want to learn about real estate, don't buy a course from these guys. Don't even buy a course from me. Go out and do it. Because if you're a scaredy cat or if you don't like buying out of state, this is not a good strategy for you. And if you believe half the shit they're telling you, this is probably a great strategy for you, and call me when you lose all your money. It's not gonna work. This will not work for you. I invite Tom Cruise and Karim to come on my podcast to react to any of these videos that you see online. Prove to me that you're actually getting the money that you say that you're getting by showing us that it matches up to the voucher, because it's not going to. One thing I do agree about is that Section 8 is a great place to get tenants, that you should always vet your tenants accordingly. Don't just rely the fact that they got a voucher, it's guaranteed. You want to make sure that they're actually good credit scores or marginal credit scores, no evictions, no criminal records. And the other thing is that they are on this program, so you do want to hold that program over their head, because they don't want to lose their ability to be on that program, because they'll lose guaranteed housing, right? That's what I got for you. Love to hear your comments below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Peace.